This is a moment for Cersei where she has a chance to maybe to flee and get away if she surrenders. But that's, I think anyone who knows Cersei knows she's not going to make that choice. Her feeling is, if I give up the throne, I'm dead. And so my only chance now is to win. And that's what she says to Ned Stark in season 1.
When you play the Game of Thrones, you win or you die.
Dany is this young queen coming to try to usurp her, and Cersei's not going to give up the throne that easily. Tyrion's perspective is, you know, while we have these various wars for supremacy and everything, let's not forget about the people who are going to suffer the most from it. He can envision what will happen in King's Landing if these two armies clash and dragons are involved, and it's an obvious catastrophe. She feels like the odds are actually pretty good for her at this point, and she's willing to roll the dice.
She's really back where she was at the very beginning. Emotionally, she's alone in the world and she can't really trust anybody.
People have underestimated Dany's strength many times before, and no one's really done very well underestimating her strength.
Unlike then, she's extremely powerful, and unlike then, she's filled with a rage that's aimed at one person specifically.
I think what's probably echoing in Dany's head in those final moments would be Missandei's final words. Dracarys is clearly meant for Dany. Missandei knows that her life is over, and she's saying, you know, light them up.
Hey everybody, it's Charlie. This is going to be my Game of Thrones Season 8 Episode 5 trailer video. Obviously, they're calling it The Last War. We don't know what the title of the episode is going to be. They haven't been releasing those till after the episodes air because they try not to give away any big spoilers. If you're new to my channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the Game of Thrones videos. There's a new round of that HBO Now giveaway too. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and leave a comment on the video. I'll also mention a little something about the spin-off Game of Thrones shows at the end of this too. Obviously, spoiler warning for everything through Game of Thrones Episode 4, though. So, starting with the footage, before the big battle, you see Tyrion trying to talk some sense into Daenerys, who's just looking out over Dragonstone, still brimming with hatred for Cersei. The way Daenerys walks out of Episode 4, per Dan and Dave, is that she gets this message, quote-unquote, received from Missandei as she's dying, Dracarys, burn them all, although Dracarys in High Valyrian means dragonfire, literally. But the way they say it is that Missandei was trying to tell Daenerys to burn Cersei and all of her allies. So Daenerys is like, message received, I will burn them all. So they want you to think from Daenerys' actions and the look on her face that she's thinking burn them all Mad King style. I think it's a bit of a misdirect though, because just like in last week's episode, Tyrion and Varys are actually worried that Daenerys will go full Mad Queen just like her father, when really we should also be thinking about Cersei going full Mad Queen. Although you would call her Cersei the Cruel because her actions are a little bit more like Maegor the Cruel. He was a Targaryen king who put down a faith militant uprising during his time by burning down the great sept of his time with all the faith inside of it, just like Cersei did during season 6, and he built the dragon pit in its place. We'll probably go back to the dragon pit at some point in the next couple of episodes. Even though you see Cersei looking out over the city here, there are a lot of questions about this shot too, because it looks very different from the shot of her looking over the city during season 6. I'll explain what's going on here. But the really interesting thing about Tyrion in this trailer here is they're using a lot of visual metaphors to make you think that he is in danger. Because as he's walking towards Daenerys, visually, look at the metaphor that they're going for here. He's walking into the mouth of the dragon on the wall here, as if Daenerys is destined to kill him sometime in the last couple of episodes. Like he's walking into the mouth of a dragon. He even said that he's afraid of Daenerys in last week's episode. There are only a couple of things that Tyrion could do in the last couple of episodes that I think would make Daenerys actually want to kill him, even though it seems like ever since the end of season 7, he's been on the outs with Daenerys in terms of her small council. She hasn't suspected Varys is plotting against her yet, but she'll probably find out about that pretty soon too. I know a lot of people are expecting Tyrion to betray Daenerys in the last couple of episodes as part of this big battle of King's Landing. I do expect him to do something really crazy, but I don't know if he would betray her in the way that a lot of people are expecting him to betray her. So it seems like they want you to think that Tyrion's days are numbered, but I think the events leading up to that potentially will be a little bit different than people expect. The interesting thing about the shot of Cersei looking out over King's Landing is that in this shot during Season 8, Episode 5, she's looking directly at the gate where they're going to be doing most of the fighting, where they had the parley in last week's episode. The thing about this is that a lot of people were confused because of the sightline. Like, you don't see the mountains in the background. Like, you see Cersei in Season 6, Episode 10, looking out over the city. You see the Great Sept while she's waiting for it to be blown up by all the wildfire. Then on the left side of the frame, you see Blackwater Bay. So people are like, wait a minute, is this supposed to be the same shot? What happened to the sightline? So I think in this shot, she's just looking out over a different side of King's Landing. Because remember, the Red Keep sits here at the back of King's Landing, so to speak. So she could look out either side of her windows and see different sides of King's Landing. So in season 6, I think she's just looking out over the left side of her windows, which would be the south side of the city. And she's looking out over the north side of the city during season 8, and that's where the gate is. A lot of you have also probably noticed that the new Season 8 intro also sort of changed the topography around King's Landing. So now it looks kind of like it's landlocked, whereas in earlier seasons, it looked like there was the bay right on one side, like it was literally bordering the bay, and then on the other side was mountains, and there was no giant desert area or anything like that around the gates. I think this is them just fudging their Season 5 stuff. Like in Season 5, they got a really good exterior shot, and this is in Dubrovnik. Then because of the way they wanted to shoot these battle scenes during Season 8, Episode 5 coming up, they're just trying to say that it's a different part of the city, even though it does look like there's kind of a desert around King's Landing. So there are some inconsistencies season to season. But for those of you asking about the seasons, like is it changing seasons now because they supposedly killed the Night King? So does that mean that winter is going away and it's turning into spring? I think the idea is that it's slowly turning from winter to spring, but it's still technically winter. Like they say, a dream of spring in A Song of Ice and Fire. There is currently a dream of spring right now, but they're not quite there. You see Jon Snow roll up at the gates of King's Landing with what few Northern Army members they have left. You see a couple Stark soldiers, you see a few Knights of the Vale in the background of this shot. You see Euron ships waiting for Daenerys, Drogon, and any other remaining fleet she might have because of Yara Greyjoy's Ironborn. Remember, Yara Greyjoy left a couple episodes ago to reclaim the Iron Islands in Daenerys' name, and if there's any special skills that they've given the Ironborn the last couple of seasons, it's the ability to cloak their ships and just show up Deus Ex Machina style. So Daenerys technically still has ships available to fight Euron's Ironborn, even if she's not thinking about Yara Greyjoy at the moment. There was a weird line of dialogue at the end of episode 4 where Dan and Dave said Daenerys might not be thinking about Euron's Ironborn fleet, but they're definitely thinking about her. Like, wait a minute, did Daenerys just forget about the fact that they have all those ships? There's a lot of discussion that'll go on these last couple of episodes about characters' actions and people acting like they normally wouldn't act, people seeming stupider than they normally would. I think a lot of that's just a function of them trying to cram so much story into such a few number of episodes. So you could just make the joke that there's a lot of deleted scenes between episodes building that character motivation for all those big twists and turns. There's a shot of Daenerys sitting in a darkened throne room in Dragonstone. They'll probably try to juxtapose her with Cersei sitting on the Iron Throne, like you have the battle of the Mad Queens, so to speak. Tyrion looking like he's shocked at something Daenerys just said also in the throne room. Maybe this is her just talking more about destroying Cersei, even if it means collateral damage for the innocent citizens of King's Landing. That would definitely shock him. He still seems like he wants to believe in Daenerys, but if she were to say something crazy like that, that would probably send him off to do something even crazier to try and stop her from doing it. We finally see the Golden Company march out of the gates of King's Landing in formation. You can see their sigil on all the shields. It's a pike adorned with gilded skulls. The skulls are actually symbolic of the skulls belonging to former captains of the Golden Company. They actually do gild the skulls of their former captains and put them on real pikes. But because they're not doing elephants, I'm not expecting them to do every little thing that the Golden Company does from the books. If we're talking about real-world history, I think a lot of the design of the Golden Company on the show is inspired by Macedonian army designs. You also notice there's a hooded figure in the background here in a black cloak walking through them in the opposite direction into King's Landing. That might be Jaime Lannister heading back to Cersei, either to kill her or to die with her, depending on how you think Cersei dies in the next 2 episodes. If he really is going to kill Cersei, he's going to have to roll dice with Arya to see who gets the pleasure. Then there's Grey Worm and the Unsullied in formation preparing to fight the Golden Company. You have all the Lannister troops atop the walls of King's Landing manning all those supersized scorpions. You even notice that Cersei has also added those special lion designs on the front for flair. The new scorpion bolts are way nastier than last year. The tips open up and they're designed to spin while in flight so that they'll bore holes tearing through anything that they hit. Then there's that last shot of Euron hearing Drogon's roar and looking up into the clouds in the sky. I think the idea being that Drogon and Daenerys are just hiding above cloud cover to obscure their attack vector, just making it harder for Euron to aim the scorpions fast enough to hit her. If she really wants to be clever, she would also put the sun at her back during her descent so that Euron and his men would literally have to stare into the sun to try and spot her, just making it way harder to aim precisely. So big challenges in next week's episode. Take King's Landing without killing all the innocent people in the process. They built out this entire part of the city as a practical set, so at some point during the battle, they'll be fighting up and down this giant city street inside the gates of King's Landing. The episode isn't quite as long as episode 3, and the battle did not take as long to film, but it is Miguel Sapochnik's episode, so it is supposed to be a big battle episode, but it might not be quite as long and drawn out as the battle during episode 3, even though their forces are divided between Blackwater Bay and the gates of the city, so it will be a bigger battle from a geographical perspective, just because the area around King's Landing is so much bigger than the area around Winterfell. There's the idea about something stopping Daenerys from going full Mad Queen, whether or not you actually think that plays out, depending on what you think her character arc is going to be in the next few episodes. What will Cersei's end be in the next couple of episodes? Will she die during the climax of episode 5, or will she die during the finale episode 6? When will Cersei lose her baby? Will Euron ever figure out that Cersei was lying to him about Jaime's baby? He didn't seem to perk up when Tyrion knew about the baby in last week's episode. He's like, wait a minute, I just found out about the baby. How could Tyrion possibly know about the baby? And will Cersei go full Mad Queen if she loses the baby during the battle? And what about Arya and the Hound? Because they were last seen on their way to King's Landing. They left before Jon Snow did, and they said it would take a fortnight for him to make it down, which is about 2 weeks. So they should have arrived at King's Landing way before Jon Snow did. When will we finally see Cleganebowl play out? Will that be during the big battle? Because that would be a perfect time to put it. And how will they pay off Daenerys' vision of the Iron Throne Room in the House of the Undying? But a lot of people wondering now, maybe this is Dragonfire and Ash instead of snow, because as of right now, there is no visible winter, snow, or anything around them anywhere. It almost looks like it's summertime. But chronologically, like I said, it's supposed to have been 2 weeks since the end of episode 4 when we begin the battle in episode 5. So there's just a whole lot of stuff that they gotta sew up in this, pushing them into the finale. I am expecting some of this to spill into episode 6. I think it's just a question of what's going to happen to potentially prevent Daenerys from coming back from the brink of being full Mad Queen, and when are they going to pay off some of these other big deaths? Because obviously, big battle episode, there are probably going to be a whole bunch of other main characters that die during episode 5. But what'll happen is I'll do some more bonus videos later this week. I will talk about the prequel shows. George R. R. Martin recently said that 3 of them are moving forward. They're filming the Long Night prequel series starting, I think, at the beginning of the summer, so we'll hear more about that pretty soon. But they haven't said what the other 2 prequels that are moving forward are, so I'll talk about that in a video later this week. But leave all your bonus video requests in the comments below. I will do a Q&A video tomorrow as well. But congratulations to Nima Musa, you're the giveaway winner from my last big Game of Thrones video. Please email me on the About page of my channel so I can get your contact details. Click here for my Game of Thrones Season 8 Episode 4 video, and click here for my Game of Thrones Episode 3 video. Thank you so much for watching. Everybody stay awesome. I'll see you guys tonight.